Today, my guest is Elizabeth Byler. They are oh my goodness. Oh gosh. I'm going to edit this. Sustainable interior design person. And your business is called Eden Environmental. And Eden, and I'm just going to redo this. Oh my goodness. Oh boy. My guest today is Elizabeth Byler. They have a business of sustainable interior design called Eden Environments. How are you today, Elizabeth? Thank you so much for joining me.
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Amy. How are you?
I am doing well. I'm very excited to learn more about this. Um, so sustainable interior design. I'm a little bit curious about that. So is this like using light and recycled materials, or is this, you're gonna have to tell me about this because you can see my house. I'm not a designer. I'm very curious about this. What is it that you do?
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to share more. Um, I think that I'm entering the interior design field from a slightly different perspective, where I want to communicate to people that your space doesn't have to be picturesque and like magazine ready to be good design. And so I kind of look a little bit more at the function and how our space like really impacts our well-being when we're in that space. Um, so I say that I create inclusive and sustainable interiors. And we're going to be talking more about the sustainable side of things. So when I say sustainable, I'm thinking about things like where do you get your chairs from? Like, are you buying them from somewhere far, far away that they have to ship it and there are all the
Mm.
fumes and the transport? Maybe they're making them from plastic and so like not easy to recycle materials. So thinking about the manufacturer and how they take the product that they have, like what is the life cycle of that product is kind of what we're
Okay.
considering.
All
So
right.
for example, like IKEA recently came out with a plan that they're slowly rolling out that they'll be able to take their items back and kind of recycle them. So there's this like closed loop of their furniture
Oh, that's
and
very
not
cool.
ending up at a landfill. Yeah.
That's cool. Of course, if you're not that close, well, I don't live that close to an IKEA. I've never
Okay.
been to an IKEA before. So I'm just thinking if I were to buy some stuff from IKEA, it would be quite a hike to get it back to them. But it's a great idea. I mean, there are a lot of people that live in cities, and that's ideal for them for sure.
Hmm. Right. Yeah. So another part of sustainability could also be buying things secondhand, like using something like Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist, or if they're local thrift stores that have furniture available. Instead of this need for everything to be new all of the time, that creates
Hmm.
a lot of furniture waste. I'm trying to figure out how can we source more local, how can we source from people that have ethical business practices, how can we find materials in a better way. So I
Hmm.
also have been studying for my LEED certification, which is leadership in energy and environmental design.
Wow.
Yeah, so I feel like I'm back in school. Um, but it has been interesting to kind of learn about how they rate different buildings in sustainability. And so one thing that they look at for wood specifically is if it's coming from like a protected forest. So
Oh,
you're making sure that the wood that you're using is being replenished. So kind of sustainable in that way, which I think is really interesting.
that's really interesting. Wow. That's so much to think about. That's a big responsibility for you. I mean, that's a big thing to take on. I mean, there's just so the like you were talking about with the IKEA thing. It's just it's they're closing that loop, and then that
Mhm.
just this is also closing the loop a bit, but there's so much more research. I mean, IKEA is doing all the research on their end, but
Right.
if you're not going to IKEA, then someone has to do that. That's amazing.
Yeah. It is. It's like a very fascinating world, and I feel like once you dive in, you're like, oh, there's a lot more going on here than I had originally considered. And even the word sustainability, like just being so big and broad, and trying to consider what does that look like for interior design and the individual needs and the individual spaces.
Right.
Um,
It's
yeah,
very personalized.
it is absolutely.
Because I think, everyone has different taste, of course, and then, I know that I just heard the phrase fast fashion, and I am
Mm.
also wearing a flannel shirt, so I am not partaking in that. So it's a new phrase to me. But, people have that need to update often. I think it's a
Mhm.
societal thing, isn't it? Like you have to be up,
Absolutely.
with the
Mhm.
what with the Joneses, keeping up with the Joneses.
Yes. Who are the Joneses? Nobody knows.
Nobody knows them, but they wanna top them. But that's really cool because I know, like our you can see my dining room chairs. We picked them off the side of the road like
Amazing.
16
That's
years
great.
ago. But they were in really great shape then.
Yeah, I
Maybe not so
know.
much now, but
That's okay. That happens to furniture. Um, I know that my parents, we actually moved to the States from Kenya. And when we moved, some friend told them about a hotel that was redesigning their space. And so they were just throwing away all this like pretty nice furniture.
yeah.
So we were able to like take a truck and pick up a dining room table and chairs and all this like pretty nice stuff for us in our house for free. So it's also like interesting when you're doing some of these more sustainable practices, how they can also save you money in the long run. I know one project, actually my first project that I did, they had a low budget, so I was trying to be very creative. I was reusing a lot of things in the space in different ways. I was looking at local thrift stores, getting things secondhand, donations, selling other things, all of this combined, and actually ended up making them money at the end of the project when we counted everything up,
Oh
which is
my
very
gosh.
unusual in a renovation project. But I like highlighting kind of what can happen if you're willing to take
Yeah.
this different approach to interior design.
That might be a cool business on its own, like just being like this hub of repurposed, I don't know, reused furniture or something, to have that
Mhm.
like inside scoop for businesses that are updating or people that are, estate sales or something like that, just to be like,
Yeah.
"Ooh, I know someone," people can know that they can contact you, Elizabeth, and say, "I'm
Mhm.
looking for, furniture if you see anywhere." And then you can be like, "Boop, boop, I actually do."
Absolutely. And places like that do exist. I don't think they're very common.
Mm.
Well, maybe I should say that. I'm not sure how we define common. I can think of like two places within like an hour and a half driving distance from me in Baltimore.
Oh,
So,
okay.
yeah, there's like
That's
a
not
few
bad.
here or there. Yeah.
Cool. And so, Elizabeth, we talked about this off camera, but you said you started doing this, the interior design 4 years ago in 2019.
That is correct. Yes.
That's so cool. 4 years. I can't even tell you how many jobs I've had since 2019, sadly. But that's great. I mean, and it's your full-time gig, so that's amazing that you're doing that.
It is. Yes. Thank you. I have all my eggs in this basket, as they say. This is the one thing that I feel like really passionate about. Um, and I feel like there is kind of a gap in the industry. There's like very high end interior design and even like some sustainability in that realm,
Mm-hmm.
which is great to see, but
Mm-hmm.
it's still, if we're talking about financially, it's
It's
not
unattainable for
sustainable.
so many people.
Right.
Right.
So I'm trying to think of how can we practice sustainability in different ways that are more affordable. Even as you were talking about fashion, like I think about that as well. I would love to buy some of these really expensive pieces that are um, like really good for the environment, very ethically made, all of those good things that we want to be mindful consumers about. But then looking at the price tag and trying to figure out how do I make this work um, becomes
Mm,
difficult. So I think
right.
that's kind of what I'm thinking about with interior design as well.
Oh, that's very cool. I love that. I mean, and I think you're totally right with the gap because there is the super high end and it is just unattainable for so many people, but then to make it almost cool to be saving money and reusing, like, let's
Mhm.
start a movement. You're starting a movement. I think that's very cool. Maybe
Yeah.
you're not starting it, but you're encouraging it, and I love
Jumping
that.
in. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, you're making it cool, man. um so what is a day like for you? Like, how, I mean, someone would say, I I'm very curious about this. Like, does someone call you and say, "Hey, I'm looking to decorate my place. Can you, but I want it to be sustainable. Can you help me do that?"
That is one way that it can happen, yes. I think there's
Okay.
just like multiple different options. So some places I've reached out to see if they would like help with their space. Some of it is just personal connections of people that I know have redone their space. Um, I've used like different websites to kind of find people that are looking for interior design help, but I think it has felt kind of tricky to find people who are what I would call like a values match, like that are looking for a space that is sustainable and or inclusive. So I think I always carry that design strategy with me and try to really advocate for that. But ultimately, it is the client who is paying for the furniture.
Of
So
course.
yeah, I can only do so much.
Oh yeah, you can't tell them what to buy for sure. Um, but it's great that you have that all set in, you've got the spiel ready, and you can guide them,
Mhm.
and they'll either go for it or not, right?
Right. Yeah.
But
I,
so is it like, I'm sorry, is it like furniture, curtains, stuff like that? I mean, is it endless, like all the stuff?
it can be kind of endless. So I don't actually have a degree in interior design. So I don't do anything with like moving walls or anything like structural in that way.
Sure.
I try to be very mindful of where my lane is and what is not my expertise. I could
Gotcha.
definitely coordinate like bringing someone in to help us figure that out. But I can pick out like flooring, wall coverings, furniture, layout, decor, curtains, lighting recommendations. Yeah, there's a
Oh,
lot that goes into a space when you start thinking about each little
oh yeah.
object and where everything is placed and all the colors and textures.
As you're saying it, I'm like, oh, I need that. I definitely need lighting help. Oh man, yeah, so much. And that's why I'm just like, I'm just gonna, it is what it is.
Yes.
But very cool. And so, oh, I've had some questions. Let me just try to get my brain back. I'm sorry. But go ahead, and if there's something else that you wanted to add while I'm thinking.
Yeah. I was just gonna say, I think one reason that I'm like pursuing getting more into lead is because working with those clients, they do care about sustainability of their building and are like actively working towards
Yeah.
this like rigorous certification for their building. Um,
Oh, those
so
are gonna
yeah,
be
I'm
good
excited
people
to
to
get
be in
more
with,
connected. Right.
for
Yeah.
sure.
So I'm looking forward to that.
That's
Um,
such a great plan.
yeah. Yes. Have you heard of living futures or living buildings at all?
I have not.
So these are also very cool. It's another certification credential for a building. I'm not sure what their terminology is exactly. But these buildings basically are designed in a way where all the energy that they're using to maintain the building, they're also in some way generating that much or even more energy for their
Oh,
space. And so it's this really cool concept of how can we create buildings that are generating energy and generating more materials than they're consuming, because buildings do take up a lot of energy, and the construction and maintenance and all of those things. So anyway, they're having a conference this spring in DC, and I'm going to be speaking at that conference. So
oh my gosh.
very excited for that as well.
That's excellent. So
Yeah.
when you said living building, my first thought was like, there's a tree growing through the middle of it. Like, you know, those open air restaurants with the trees growing through. I'm like, that was
Right.
where my mind went. I'm like, oh, a living house. You're not going to see that in Maine. I'm like making myself cry. I'm so silly. Um, I'm just
I
seeing
thought you were
how,
gonna say like a building that was moving or something, like that
oh,
grew.
I have no grasp on design. This is so cool.
Thank you.
And so I've heard of lead homes, and I didn't really know, or businesses, like a lead business is like a super economical, efficient building, but I didn't really understand what it entailed. And so that's like a big deal. And that's going to be great networking.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to be in with a lot, you might get super busy. You might have to hire some help.
That would be great. I don't know. I don't know. I feel like
We'll see.
I'm in the early stages, so we'll see how it develops.
All right. Very cool. Um, what are your specialties? Is it like paint or furniture? It sounds like maybe furniture, like sourcing
Mhm.
furniture.
That's a great question. I think one of my design strengths is colors. Like I feel pretty confident in my ability to pick out like very specific shades of colors and knowing what will work well together and what doesn't. Um, which I read a book one time that people have different numbers of cones in their eyes, so some people like can actually see colors differently than other people, and some people can see like more shades and difference. Um, so I think I like to think I have more cones in my eyes that lets me do that. But I think really what is different about what I'm doing is kind of the design strategy that I'm bringing. So I'll just like briefly touch on the inclusive part as well. So I'm focused on doing size inclusive design, so designing for larger bodies and thinking about chairs a lot of the time, like the width of the chair, the angle of the chair, whether they're armrests or not, just general like the weight limit of it, the sturdiness of it, all of those things, and walkways as well, like how much space do you have for people to actually get around and navigate. I also look at neurodivergent friendly design, so thinking about the sensory issues of the space, which again
Oh,
are like lighting, the textures, sound in the space. And then the last two are trauma informed, so thinking about how trauma affects our bodies and then our bodies interact with the space. So how can you create a space that makes people feel safe and relaxed and not
Oh my goodness.
activated in that space? And then the last one is biophilic, which means the love of life, which kind of plays into the sustainable piece as well. So it's really connecting people to nature through direct nature, like adding plants to space, or indirect nature, having organic shapes in the space is a very quick, simple overview of
Wow.
all of those things. So this human-centric design strategy with the sustainability piece is kind of, I think, what I would call my specialty and how it's different ways to approach the space and consider how we can use space for our human well-being and for the planet's well-being and for businesses well-being as well. Yeah.
That's amazing. I totally had no idea about any of that. There's so much to think about.
There
And
truly
you can
is.
do all of that.
Yes.
That's incredible. That's a real
Yeah.
gift. I mean, I know you know that, but that's amazing.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I think it's something that we need to think about. Like I think there's been this shift in how we interact with spaces, and I think it's no longer how can we just make this the prettiest space, but really what are we using this space for and how can we be well in this space? So I'm excited about that shifting conversation and I hope it continues.
Mm.
Yeah, because I think it matters.
It totally does. And it's just I don't know if it's not my generation, it's just me. I guess I just grew up and you want it to be white and clean, and my house is clearly not white or clean, but um everything, if it was white it was clean, and if it wasn't it was like cluttery, messy, and there's just so much more. There's just so much more that we
Mhm.
non-designers really have no idea about. And that is just so impressive. I can't even believe I get to learn about this today. I'm so grateful. I mean, you're just really opening up a whole world to me. And so what how did you decide to do this? Like, did you just say I have this gift and I have this passion for, I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but I'm just curious how you got to this point.
Yeah, sure. I think it's been an interesting journey for sure. Like it's not been a straight path. I think looking back, design feels like it's always kind of been part of my life. I am highly sensitive to spaces that I'm in, and so I think I was often thinking about how the space is impacting me. I also tend to see like a lot of patterns in the world, and enjoy patterns in spaces and different things like that. So I think I've always been kind of like tuned in to those details in the environment. But I actually went to college to study healthcare administration
Oh,
because I thought that I wanted to run a hospital and be a doctor at the same time.
wow,
uh,
both.
yes, very. And then I was like,
Lofty goals.
I think I'm overly empathetic. Like if someone describes their pain to me, sometimes I will start to feel the pain. And so I was like, I can't be
Yeah.
treating patients and like also in pain. It's not gonna go well.
Mm.
But what I realized is when I was thinking about working in the hospital, what I was really doing to prepare for this was drawing the floor plans for the hospital and trying to think of ways that the staff could like get around visitors who are always just like kind of chaotically wandering the halls a little
Right.
bit lost. um which I've also thought about, like how can hospitals be clearer about where you need to go. um
Right. More
Small
welcoming,
tangent.
less stressful.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, for sure. Um, yeah, small tangent. I was like pretty almost late for an appointment that I had arrived like 15, 20 minutes early for because I just like was
Couldn't
trying to
find your
navigate
way.
through this hospital. And I was like, this is ridiculous. And then they were upset with me, and I was like, I really tried. This was just more
Yeah.
confusing than it needed to be. I almost ended up in like the emergency room accidentally. That's like not where I was going.
Am I on time in the emergency room?
Right.
Oh, so were you then designing your own hospital by drawing out these floor plans?
I was, yes. They were embarrassingly enough, I will admit, they were in the shape of my initials. So like the main hospital was in the E, and then the like secret passage was with the B like going through.
Yeah.
But so you wouldn't have been able to tell unless you were in a helicopter.
Right, right. If you're looking down over it, right.
Yeah, but I was like, this is so cool. I'm gonna have this hospital with my initials that
I
I'm
love
like
it.
building and running and being a doctor in. This was me at the age of 5 or so. So yeah.
I have it all planned.
Yes.
And
Life,
then life happens and there's a turn.
right. So then, after college, I was having a hard time finding an entry level job. Because healthcare administration is usually a graduate degree. So I was either overqualified for entry level positions or underqualified, which is frustrating. So I ended up,
Again, the gap.
right, yes. So I ended up working at a nonprofit. And even during the interview, when I walked in, it was a nonprofit that was focused on working with children internationally. And it felt very outdated sitting in this lobby that I even have the thought, am I in the right place? Like what what is this decor? So I got the job. I was working there for a while. I was getting migraines. I
Oh,
was sad every time I walked into the building.
okay.
So then I asked my boss if I could work on the space, and I think he just didn't really care or like didn't know the extent to which I wanted to do something. I'm not sure, but he agreed. And I talked to the landlord, and we worked out a deal and were allowed to redo the space. So I kind of fell in love with the process and with the outcome. That was a project where I was like on a very tight budget and ended up getting more money at the end. So yeah, it felt like
And
a
less
huge
headaches.
success. Yes. So I like did some things with the lighting, and it just felt like a completely new experience to be in this refreshed space and to walk in and be like, wow, like this looks more like this mission that we're doing, and it feels clear why we're here and where we are, and all of those things. So I think feeling that like impact, knowing that I could do it and like seeing that it mattered in that way, was really motivational. But I didn't even like go into it directly. Then I went to business consulting. And during that also was interviewing employees, and they were talking about how their space was not working for them. But that wasn't something we were necessarily trying to address. But I was like, I can
Right.
fix this for you. So I think after that experience, I was like, okay, let me kind of go off on my own and see what I can do. Kind of unfortunately, that was 2019. So I was like picking up momentum, pandemic hit, and then was
Mm.
have been trying to like regroup and be flexible with what people need, because especially businesses have kind of been in this limbo space of, are we keeping this, are we not keeping it,
Right.
if we are keeping it, how do we rework it? But there are also like new businesses popping up that are
Could
looking
use
for
that
help
old
with their space.
furniture.
Right, yes. So always things changing. I feel like we're going to have buildings, and need them to be well designed for us. So yeah, that is the long journey.
That is such a cool story, though.
Thank
That's
you.
so cool. I mean, I know that it was an entry level job or, working for the nonprofit, that it was not planned,
Mhm.
but because you worked at that job, you discovered this gift. And that's
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
cool.
Yeah. I think that creative jobs weren't necessarily on my radar as something feasible.
Right.
Um, yeah, and I won't say that it's been like super easy the whole time, but I think every job I've had, if I didn't have something kind of creative that I was doing, it just didn't fit me very well. Um,
Right.
so yeah, I'm really grateful to be able to be doing this.
Sure. I'm sure that your clients are just thrilled too. I mean, especially, if you're buying used or, repurposed or whatever, like they're saving money and they're,
Mhm.
if you're redesigning something, you think of it being, thousands of dollars or whatever, and just outlandish and impossible. But then if you're saving money by, you know,
Mhm.
getting used stuff, and I just think that's incredible. And it's totally not something clearly that was on my radar. I just think that's amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, I do definitely try to communicate to people that interior design can be accessible. Like it doesn't have to be this lofty
Yeah.
dream, and your space doesn't have to look picture perfect. Like if it's working for you and you're happy with it, even if that means like polka dots on the walls, like if that's what really excites you and it's your space, if that's what you want to do, like I'm all for that. So yeah.
That's so great. I mean, I don't know any designers, but I just think of like everyone wants to live in this castle, this big glamorous place, but
Hmm.
it also doesn't feel like home. So
Right.
that's so important. I mean, if you're going to spend time in your home, you want it to feel like a home,
Absolutely.
and that it is really important, and to feel good about it.
Yes, definitely. Kind of going back to what you were saying about everything being white everywhere. Like I think of hospitals and even hotels, like hospitality spaces and how stark they are. And I'm like, they could have like similar functions of being easy to clean or whatever it is that they're trying to achieve while being more soothing spaces to be in and not feel so
Right.
sterile and impersonal. So yeah, I would love to eventually kind of be working in those spaces and create something better.
Oh my goodness. What a dream that would be.
Yeah.
That would be so cool. And maybe someday someone will hear this story, Elizabeth, and say, I kind of want that EB hospital. Like, will you help me to redesign that, or to make that a reality?
Yeah, that would be great.
Five, a 5-year-old's dream come true.
I know.
That would be
I
very
don't even know
cool.
what I would do if that actually happened. That would be very exciting.
Oh, I've got it all drawn up. It's been in my head
Unfortunately,
for
I don't think
years.
it made it across the sea.
Ah, right. Well, it's it's in your head. It's in your head. Maybe
It
not
is.
all of it, every detail, but
Yeah.
it's still there. Um, and so, wow, this is just so interesting. My mind is totally open to this now. Um, when I when I say the word sustainability, Elizabeth, what does that mean to you?
That's a great question. Because I do think in some ways it's like a buzzword to use, like, oh, this is sustainable.
Right.
Um, I think I kind of use it in a lot of different ways. Like, I think I mean it in many different ways. So, sustainable in the sense of considering what is like the long term ramifications of this. whether we're looking at that financially, whether we're looking at that on people's health, whether we're even looking at maintenance. Like, is this design, can it be maintained? Or are we putting something in here that's not going to last? So then it wouldn't be sustainable.
So you're just looking at the end game, like the big picture, not just like right now, what is
Right.
this? Yes.
Yeah. The quality of things. Um, but I think also, like, what good are they bringing in addition to that? So, like, who are they helping? Because I think that sustainability is a great thing. Um, while also, I think I try to leave room for things that how do I want to say this? I try to leave space for individuals to also not be sustainable in some ways. Like, I don't want to attack individuals for their choices and like doing what they need to do to survive. I think my primary focus is on businesses and kind of pushing them a little bit more to be better, because I think a lot of the responsibility falls on organizations and businesses even more than individuals. I think it's great for us to do our part, but I don't think that guilting or shaming anyone or businesses. Like, I try to approach sustainability from a place of empowerment and education and advocacy. Because it can get scary to like hear all of the things, and I don't want people in that space when they're making decisions about what they're buying and what they're considering for their design. Like, I want it to be a really like heartfelt, just, yes, I want the secondhand furniture. Because I've tried in the past to like buy thrifted clothes that I feel meh about, and then you never wear them, and then you just donate them. And so trying not to do that, like, you still need to have that,
the connection.
Right. Yes, that's a great word for it.
Right. Okay. So yeah, right. You don't want to force sustainability on someone. You just have ideas, and you can share that, and if they don't like it, you're not going to pressure. Yeah.
Maybe a little bit.
I'm totally down with that.
I'll feel it out.
I'm totally down with that. But that was beautiful the way that you described that. It's so true. It's so true. And I love, I know that sustainability is such a big word, but I also love to hear how different individuals feel about it. Like, it is a big word, but it means something different to every single person. And I just love to feel that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's great to get individual perspectives on words like that. Yeah, that's right.
And it's so different the way that you describe it, and it makes so much sense. Absolutely. Okay. And so now, if somebody wants to learn more about what you're doing, or if they want to follow you and say, I need to get in touch with this person, and I need to learn more about this. I live in the Baltimore area. I want Elizabeth to help me design my space.
Mm-hmm.
How would someone find you or follow you?
Yeah, I would love that, or even just welcome more conversations about sustainability. So I have a website, EdenEnvironments.org. I am also on Instagram at Eden Environments, I believe. I think Facebook. I should have looked up all these.
I know. Before this. We don't look ourselves up. I know somebody asked me what my personal Instagram was. I'm like, why? I don't know.
The website and Instagram should get you to everything else. I think Eden Interiors on Twitter. I think Eden Environments on Facebook. And there is also a TikTok and a YouTube that are like occasionally used. um, yes, so I tried to be a little bit of everywhere. So if you want to find me, you can.
I think I found you on Instagram. Cool. Um,
Was I right? Is it Eden Environments?
yep.
Okay, great.
There. Whew. And I will make sure that all the information is in the show notes. But is there anything else that you wanted to touch on, Elizabeth, before we close up? I just want to make sure that you have the time to say everything that you need to.
I think I've said most of what I want to say. I would just re-emphasize that everyone can make sustainable interior design decisions. Um, I encourage people to evaluate their space for what they think they're missing or what they need. And maybe even as a first step, just rearranging things in your space can make a huge difference before being like, I need everything new in the space. Really seeing what you have and even taking inventory in other rooms in your home. So maybe a lamp isn't working for you in your living room, but maybe it would be perfect for your bedroom. So thinking about how you can kind of shift those things around before making um, purchases could be helpful.
Awesome. I think that's such a powerful statement that you're putting out into the world. I mean, just the fact that it's not just, paint and curtains and furniture, it's the feel, the texture, and the connection. Again, like I just think there's so much more than I ever thought of. And I'm so glad that you brought this to the podcast. I'm so glad to know about this. I have such a bigger understanding of it, and I want to start rearranging things. But it's a great tip to try rearranging things before you're like, I have to buy new stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Just try
Or
moving it
repairing
around.
items, like there's reupholstery, there's wood glue. There's even like markers that you can get that match your like the stain of the wood. Um, for like little dings here and there. Yeah, so there's a lot that can be done.
I love it. I love it so much. I'm so grateful that we connected because you just opened up a whole world to me that I just want to learn more now. Do you know anybody in Maine doing the
Now I
same
do.
thing? Yeah, now
One
you do.
person.
But who does something similar? I think I need to look that up because that would be really helpful.
Mhm. I mean, I can work virtually as well. So
Oh, here it is now. All right. So we can connect with you virtually, and you can give us tips on how to make our home feel better.
yes.
That's amazing. Okay. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. I can't even put into words how grateful I am to learn this today. I'm so glad that we connected. I
Yeah, me
let's
too. This was
let's
so
do this
fun.
again.
Okay.
All
Sounds
right.
good. Thanks so much, Amy.
Thank you.